Hi there, I'm Jacob Nelson. I'm the founder of Giraffe Systems, which is a local computer repair business that I run in my free time. I've been operating here in Bottineau, North Dakota for about 6 years now. I do it part time. I work full time at the local community college, as you can see, Dakota College. And yeah, tonight I just wanted to record building a computer. I thought it'd be kind of informative to show, how to assemble a computer. There's thousands of videos out there on how to do it. It's nothing that's super difficult, but it's something I really enjoy doing. So I want to share that, with everyone, what I love doing and why I love doing it. So let's get started. Yeah, I had a customer contact me. They wanted a new computer. They've had an old desktop computer for several years now, I think a Dell system. And it's worked well for them. It's running Vista to give you an idea on how old the computer is. And they approached me. They just want to replace it, get something completely up to date. So I decided, you know what? Let's go all out. They have a pretty decent budget to work with. So I put together something that's not crazy expensive, but something that's going to last them a really long time. Really good hardware, and let's just get right into it. So we'll start with the motherboard here. This is an Asus B360i gaming mini ITX motherboard. This is actually a pretty affordable motherboard. It's like $130 or so. I really like sticking with Asus motherboards. They're really good quality. I've had really good luck with them over the years building systems. And it's an Intel motherboard, so I'll show you the processor next, which is the new Intel Core i5-8400. It's a 6-core processor at 2.8 gigahertz. Pretty solid processor, one of the better processors I'll be building with this year, I'm sure. Next, we have some Corsair DDR4 8 gigabytes of RAM. 8 gigabytes is a good capacity for just about anybody. It's really affordable, and then you don't have to worry about running out of RAM when you're using the computer. It's going to be plenty for most people, so I didn't think they needed 16 gigs of RAM. The next thing is the Samsung 970 EVO. This is a 250 gigabyte NVMe M2 solid state drive. I really love these NVMe cards. They're fantastic because you don't have to run a serial ATA data or power cable to it. Just connects right into a little connector on the motherboard, and just allows me to create a really nice and clean system. So I'm really happy that these have come down a lot in price too. This was really affordable. I think it was around $80 or something. That's crazy. A few years ago, it would have been way more than that. We'll move on to the cooling. Here I went with, I love Noctua products. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. If I'm not, I wouldn't be surprised. This is a CPU cooler. It's an NH9DL. Really nice computer. These are top quality products for, their fans, their coolers, everything's just really high quality. And then we got the case fans here. We got two 80 millimeter fans and then a 140 fan that may replace the current fan that's in this Thermaltake Core V1 Mini ITX chassis. It's a good fan, but Noctua just, really can't be beat, and the price for these fans are really inexpensive for the quality you're getting. They back it with several years of warranty. So if you ever have any issues, down the line, if a bearing goes out in it, just easy to replace, which is, nice. Don't have to worry about that down the road. Reliability wise, it's going to be a good product. Then we have the Seasonic Focus Gold 550 watt power supply. It's fully modular. 10-year warranty, again, really solid products from Seasonic. I've had really good luck with them as well. Typically I stick with Seasonic for my power supplies. I build a lot of Intel systems, Asus motherboards, Corsair for my memory, Samsung for my solid state drives. Then if I have to use a mechanical hard drive, for price per gigabyte, I usually go with like the Western Digital Black. Those Seagate drives seem to be pretty good nowadays, the enterprise grade drives. So I wouldn't be opposed to using that in a future system. Anyways, I digress. Let's just kind of get into it here. I'm probably going to reposition the camera so you can get a better view of what's going on. So yeah, let me just kind of move some things around, clear out my workspace, and then we'll get started. Move this stuff over here. Okay. Move this to the side. All right. Move the camera. All right, so I repositioned the camera to hopefully give you an optimal view of what's going on. We're going to start with unboxing the motherboard here. Pull that out. It's in an anti-static bag for protection. Just toss the cardboard aside. Get to the bottom here. All right, this looks like probably our antenna for the wireless adapter. We'll just set that to the side. Got some serial ATA cables. We won't be needing those. Some zip ties. I'll probably just use my own. The screws, might need these for the solid state drive. Some stickers, a manual, another bracket of sorts. And then, I really don't know what that is. Set that to the side. Oh, nice. So this is a little front panel connector adapter cable. So it allows us to connect the front panel of the case. You got the two USBs, your power button, reset button, audio. Well, actually audio will be connected to the back. But it allows you to connect the front panel easily to your motherboard. Sometimes that can be kind of difficult, so I'll be using that for sure. Driver CD, which we don't have an optical drive with this system, so that won't matter. Alright, just some information there. Oh yeah, that's kind of a unique thing about this setup is it looks like the I/O panel is integrated to the motherboard. So I actually haven't dealt with something like this before. But yeah, that's really nice. So, you know, we got DisplayPort, let that focus. DisplayPort, HDMI, two USB 2.0s, one 3.0. Actually, surprised there isn't more 3.0s. Oh yeah, here's the 3.0 high power, Type-C USB, gig Ethernet, Wi-Fi, and then all the audio connectors we need. Two RAM slots, PCIe 16, Intel CPU socket, USB 3.0 header, and then under here is where the solid state drive will live. But I really like building mini ITX systems because they're so compact. You can see how small this motherboard is in my hands. You know, this is kind of the smallest full-size form factor you can get. Overall, I really like building the compact systems because I think people anticipate a desktop computer to be something that's oversized and cumbersome, but when they see it's a small little package, you know, I think that's a really cool thing. We'll set that down there. Kind of set what I don't need over to the side here. Okay. Let's get the processor out. Sorry if my chair is squeaking. A little annoying. That might be picked up by audio. I'm not sure. Alright, so now we got the Intel Core i5 8400. I'm going to open that up here. Okay, so there's the processor there, and its protective packaging. Set that to the side. This right here is the most expensive component of the system. Actually, the monitor, I believe, comes next. we got a really good monitor with the system. But right here, this processor is pretty expensive. I can't remember if it's 220 or so, but it's a really good processor. Set that down, and I'll show you. This is the included CPU cooler that Intel includes with almost all their processors. It's a very tiny CPU cooler. I'm not a huge fan of them. I have used them before when I needed to save money for my customer's budget. It's included, so it will sufficiently cool the processor, but they're not my favorite thing to use because I don't think they're really good quality. The fan is okay quality. They can fail. Anything can really fail, but I'm just not a huge fan of the quality of these, and their cooling performance isn't spectacular. If this was someone's gaming computer, this would not be sufficient, but for everyday use, yeah, it works. But I prefer to use aftermarket, and Noctua they make really affordable air coolers that perform really well, so I'm a huge fan of those. So we'll just set this to the side over here, and I'll show you a comparison on why the Noctua is such a better cooler. It's just kind of common sense when you compare them side by side. So let's go ahead and put the processor in. I'm probably gonna have to put, I'll have to put a back panel in as well. So we'll lift up the socket, the latch and the socket protector, and we'll take the processor out here. All right, and what I'm looking for is just making sure I'm lining up the processor correctly. So what you want to look for is basically there's a little indicator here. It's kind of hard to see. That little that little gold triangle in the corner is an indicator. You also have two notches up here, and you have to just line those up with the socket and carefully place it in. There we go, no pressure at all. And then we'll just drop this down and push a lever all the way in and lock it. And then the little protector can come off. And when you're building a computer, you do not want to throw this away. If you have any issues with your motherboard, you do need this. If you have to RMA it, they will require that this is in place because it protects the pins that are soldered to the motherboard. If those get bent or damaged in any way, they'll probably reject your RMA because that shows customer neglect. So be sure to save these. I usually put all the extra parts in the motherboard box for storage for my clients, just a nice little box to keep all those extra bits in. All right, so we got the processor in place. We'll move to the Noctua cooler next. I prefer to build the system out of the case first. We can test it. It's also easier to build that way, though the Thermaltake case I have over here is really easy to build in. It's probably one of my favorite cases. I've used it in 2 other builds, so I'm really excited to get back to this one. Usually I build something smaller. I'll show you one of my all-time favorite cases, though it's kind of a pain to build in. I just really like the overall package that you get with it. We'll move this to the side a little bit here. So this is the Noctua D-type tower cooler. I believe it's 92. I think it's a 92 millimeter fan. Got 92 millimeter fan. Put this over. So here's all the mounting hardware. Thermal paste is in here as well, and then the tower. Noctua stuff's always really well packaged. Put the box to the side here. And if I can figure out how to open it. There we go. Yeah, really well packaged. Okay, set the cardboard. Ooh. And there is the Noctua CPU cooler. Got a little piece of cardboard protecting the fan. Alright, pull that out. Ooh, first injury of the night. So that's always fun. So I'll be right back and get a Band-Aid. And nope, no blood on the cooler. We're fine there. Grab my mouse. All right, I'm back. Got a big old band-aid on my thumb now. Hopefully it doesn't slow me down too much. But yeah, so here's the Noctua. It's CPU cooler. It has a 92 millimeter cooling fan in between the two towers. You know, you got basically these heat pipes that come up from the bottom base here that sits on top of the CPU. When the CPU heats up, there's liquid inside of here that kind of moves up, and then essentially heat dissipates through the cooling fins here. Just a general idea, probably didn't, I might have not nailed that explanation 100%, but anyways, you can see just by looking at these two coolers, the amount of cooling performance you get out of this one just by surface area alone is going to be way more substantial than this little guy here. And the cooling fan, you know, it's pretty small in comparison. It's 92 millimeter. This is like an 80 millimeter, I think, or so. It's a non-standard fan. But anyways, very good cooler, not too expensive. I think this was about $60 for the cooler. And it's kind of a one-time purchase. You can use this in, you know, this is compatible with almost every processor. So really, if you build this computer and several years down the road you want to, you know, start over, you could take this from an old system, put it in, and it's going to work, you know, probably better than what they include in the box with the processors. So we'll go ahead and put the Intel one to the side here. And yeah, here's all the mounting hardware you need, including thermal paste. They give you some instructions here. I might have to reference those. It's been a little while since I built a system, about a few months. I got some mounting hardware. Like I said, I may have to reference the installation guide. I should have, yeah, there's the bracket that needs to go on the reverse side of the motherboard. So basically I'll show you that. Alright, and then we got a bunch of thumb screws, spacers. Okay, so this we need to put on the reverse. It looks like should just go like that. Go straight down, there we go. That's something really interesting on the back of this motherboard, if you can see that. Look at all that graffiti kind of text. Really cool attention to detail on this motherboard. I haven't seen that before. Typically the type of motherboards I'm building with are a little bit on the cheaper side, more budget friendly. This one was a good price, and for the price I really couldn't pass it up. And then we got our little adapter or brackets here that we'll need to connect. Those should just drop in like this. Leave like that, and that should line up just like that. I think it's yeah, it looks like it's a symmetrical design, and the logo's here, or the Noctua. Yeah, you can kind of see it there. So should go just like that. Actually, let me look on the fan, make sure I got it. Yep, so that should be the correct orientation, because we're going to have some exhaust fans on this side. So the fan's going to essentially draw air from this side and blow it out this way, and there's going to be two 80 millimeter case fans here that are going to exhaust it from the back of the case. So this is the direction we want that to be facing. If we had it facing the other direction, then it'll be fighting the fans, which would not be good. This should just go in like that, I believe. And then we got some thumb screws here. Open up that little baggie and kind of, we'll just dump them out into the box. Oh, yeah, we will need the spacers, that's right. So these little plastic spacers are actually going to go like that, and just like that. There we go. Kinda using a webcam, so there's no real zoom here. maybe if people are interested in watching this, I can actually use my other camera that has an optical zoom. All right, put that down like that. Sorry for if there's any glare. I think it's just to me, so that's good. We'll go ahead and put these thumb screws on, tighten those up. So one of the biggest things with being a computer technician and kind of going into information technology comes down to, a lot of it comes down to experience. One of the things I find that I kind of don't agree with quite is doing all labs in a virtual lab. I really think that if someone's going to get good experience, they need to do a lot of this hands-on. So if this interests you, absolutely dive into it. Computer hardware is really not that difficult to work with. You don't need any special training really to just kind of buy the hardware and do it yourself. You can follow YouTube videos just like this and kind of learn it. But anyways, I think it's really important to learn it hands-on, to feel how tight you need to tighten everything properly. How much force it takes to seat RAM into the RAM slot. I'll show you that here pretty soon. And it's kind of something that you can't get from a virtual lab. They have their place, but ultimately I think getting hands-on experience is super important. And yeah, I mean, this is my favorite thing to do with computers. Working information technology professionally, I've been working at college for about 8 years, and I've been running this business for about 6 years. I've been messing with computer hardware for about 14 years. So I've been at it for quite a while, and that's my favorite aspect, is the hands-on, figuring it out, trying to figure out how things work and everything, and it's something I kind of made a career out of. I noticed I did touch the processor here at one point with my finger, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some alcohol and clean that up. Basically, you just don't want any grease from your fingers on the processor. It realistically, it probably won't affect it, but I prefer to have an absolute clean slate. So we'll let that dry here. Should only take several seconds to dry. And then once that's dried, I'll apply some thermal paste. And apply the CPU cooler. Now the job of thermal paste or thermal compound is to essentially fill in all the microscopic pores on the metal surface of the heat spreader that's attached to the processor and the heat sink. It fills in all those microscopic pores and allows the metal to transfer heat better, more efficiently. It would probably work without thermal paste, but it would run a lot warmer that way. And basically thermal paste is just kind of, you always put it there. It always sits between the processor and your heat sink to allow the heat to transfer properly to the heat sink and then dissipate outside of it. So a really important part of the computer building process. And how you apply it's also really important. You don't want to put too much or too little. I've been reading that too little is actually a lot more harmful than too much, though too much can damage a system potentially if this is conductive. Actually, not sure if the Noctua thermal paste is conductive or not, but there is Arctic Silver is a conductive one that you definitely don't want to get all over everything. So I'm just going to apply a little amount here. There we go. Not too much, not too little, just kind of enough to spread across the whole heat spreader of the processor there. So you can kind of see how much I put there. And when I attach the CPU cooler to the top of it, what will happen is when I tighten the screws here, I have to take out the fan. When I tighten the screws here, what will happen is it'll evenly squish the thermal paste and kind of cover where the processor dies are. That's the kind of that's essentially your what you're cooling is the processor die. And I haven't looked underneath this heat spreader, but there's the die is the cores, so you're going to have I believe a row of them. Again, I haven't looked at the newest Intel processors, but there used to be different ways to apply thermal paste, but this is pretty much true. Is you just put it in the center, let the heatsink spread it out. Okay. That's another thing why I like the Noctua. They lap the bottom of their heatsink. Kind of allows better performance, and yeah, just shiny. So we'll set that like that. I'm actually going to remove the fan because I think it'll just be easier to install this way. Let's see. There we go. Drop the fan out, pull the fan out. Catching on this side, yeah. There we go. Okay, and we just want to set that down. It did give me a screwdriver. Oh yeah, there it is. So Noctua does include a little nice thin screwdriver too, because I took the fan out, shouldn't need to use that. So we'll just kind of tighten this down, get that side going, come back to this side. Make sure it connects actually. Yep, there we go, can feel the tension. So we'll come back to this side, go back here. I prefer to do it in increments just to apply even pressure in every direction. This is usually recommended to do a cross direction on some coolers. Since there's only 2 screws here, I'm just going back and forth. Alright, that's all the way. Alright. There we go, there's our CPU cooler down. Now we need to put the fan back into place. What I want to look for, let's get some of this stuff out of the way here that we won't be using again. Okay, CPU or heatsink tray out of the way. Alright, so what I want to look for next is where the CPU fan header is. So there it is on this motherboard. It's really difficult to see. This is a CPU fan header that I'm going to be connecting the CPU fan in. It needs to be connected there because that's how your BIOS identifies what the CPU fan is and what the speed's running at. So it's pretty important to use that header because that's what's going to dictate is how fast to spin the fan, because your computer will actually spin, either slow down or speed up the fan required to keep the processor cool. So you want to use the designated CPU fan header when you can. One of the things I like to do is just from a cable management standpoint is figure out the best way to route this cable. It's pretty short, but we only have to go a really short amount. So if we position the fan in a certain way, it might make more sense. If we position all of this way, that actually might work the best. So we'll try rotating it around and see what that does for us. And again, I'm making sure the fan's facing the right direction. If you're unsure, there is actually a label here on fans that show you the direction the fan spins and blows. You can see those 2 little arrows. The little connector is falling out. Okay, so let's try this out. But the only thing I'm not a fan of the Noctua coolers is these little fan brackets. They're kind of, I think they could be better designed maybe. They work. I mean, they definitely do work, so there's nothing wrong with them. It's just trying to get them attached sometimes can be a little difficult. We're catching on the fins as I'm dropping the fan in. Oh yeah, I feel like I got that one that's definitely stuck there. Maybe I'm just not doing this the most proper way either. There's a potential for that. Okay, so let's get that connected. Yeah, that kind of just runs in a gap. That's fine. Can get the fan seated properly. Just gonna pull it out and see if I can seat it a little bit lower. Oh, I got it lower on that side. Oh. Alright, so there we go. We got the Noctua fan seated right there. Just making sure my bracket is in there properly. Fan shouldn't be moving anywhere. One of the worst things you can have is vibrations with the fan. That creates noise, and you definitely don't want noise. The benefit of these Noctua fans is they run really quietly. As long as you make sure the vibration dampers are connecting. Okay, yeah, so the fan is pushing against. I did notice there is a couple clear rubber placements there, which is good. One of the fins got bent, so I bent that back. So yeah, there we go. Heatsink is installed. Honestly, that's probably that can be one of the most complicated things to install. Some of the aftermarket ones are pretty difficult to install. You gotta go through all these different angles. What I like about the Noctua ones is they're really straightforward. The Intel ones are probably the easiest. They're just little push pins that you push down and then it kind of locks to the motherboard. They're really cheap connectors though. I just really don't like them. There's a reason why they're included with the processor. It's they're cheap. And actually, the really high-end Intel processors don't include them, I think, because they really just wouldn't work for those higher-end processors. They generate a lot of heat. But next thing I'm installing is the Vengeance DDR4 RAM, which is the random access memory. I'm installing one stick. What I'm doing here is just looking for the label. Typically, there's a label on the motherboard that tells you. Yeah, there it is. Let me just grab my flashlight. Which one's DIMM A? DIMM A1's the one, and typically for most motherboards, it's the RAM slot that's closest to the processor is your first DIMM slot. The computer will boot without installing RAM in the first one, but it is usually recommended to use the first RAM slot. I imagine the performance might be better. That's my assumption anyways. And if you look closely, you'll notice that it's an asymmetric design. So if you look, the left, there's a little divider in the middle, and the left side is a little bit shorter than the right side. So you want to make sure your RAM is positioned the correct way when you insert it, and you can see that here this side's a little bit shorter than the other side. With the Asus motherboards, what they've been doing lately is this is a solid post here that the RAM slides into, and then this is oh man, my lighting's not very good. That's how it locks into place. So this one's just solid straight down. There's a little metal connector in there that holds the RAM in place. So what you want to do is you push down all the way on the one side first, and then on the other side here. All right, there we go, and that's seated all the way. I don't see any pins. All right, should be good. The little notch goes into the notch on the RAM, so it locks into place, so it can't move when it kind of warms up and expands. It'll remain in place. Sometimes that is an issue, and you may have to reseat memory. Very rarely that does occur, though. So RAM is in place here. We have basically our 3 core components connected now: the motherboard, CPU, RAM. One of the next components we'll connect is the solid state drive. But what I'll do is probably just do a minimum boot. This is all that's required to boot the computer now, is the processor, RAM, and motherboard. We don't need storage. We just need to boot into, just to see if the BIOS, is functioning. It's just always good to test them before you assemble the system fully, because if you have some bad component, then that can kind of put a hamper on everything and can be kind of difficult, might be difficult to troubleshoot. So what I'm doing now is just going to be opening up the Seasonic power supply. Okay, so there's the power supply. We'll move the motherboard over here. Opens this way. Alright, free $25 Steam. Actually, I already did that with the last power supply I bought, so I can't do that again. So you're thinking of power supplies, Seasonics, really good. I don't see an expiration, just 15 days after purchase. This is actually really easy to claim. So, if you play PC games, great deal there. These power supplies are really affordable too. It's pretty crazy how inexpensive they are. Now this is something I haven't seen before. I don't know what that's about. We'll find out. I actually put a little sleeve over the power supply to protect it. But there it is. It's a really good quality power supply, really compact in size too, which is what I like about this series. Fully modular, so it doesn't have any cables connected to it you only need to connect what you need. I love this design. 120 millimeter cooling fan, hybrid mode, which allows the fan basically to only run when needed, so it can run even quieter, I believe anyways. We'll set that there. Power cable, which I won't be needing on my desk. And then here's all the cables in a nice little cinched sack. And we'll just kind of take this down, go to the side, figure out what cables we need here. These look like Molex and Serial ATA. We actually won't be needing these, I don't believe. Might need them for the fan. Cut open this bag here. Sorry about the noise. I really don't know what this is. Just really interesting. Oh no, that's cool. I wonder if it's to jumpstart, or no. Is it? Yeah. Because I did notice there's a couple pins in here, and I bet you that's green and black for the power supply. And if you don't know, you can actually jumpstart. It's on these power supply cables, you can't really see colors anymore. These are all usually color coded, but the cables are all black. Or the wires are all black, I should say. So there is 2 pins in this little connector, and it goes only one way, so that's really cool. So that's to jumpstart the power supply. If you need to just, for whatever reason, run some components without having them in a computer, that's really interesting. I wonder why they must, that's really good for testing purposes to see if a power supply will start up and run without a motherboard. If your motherboard's dead, there's no way to start your power supply without jumping it. So before, you just connect a wire from green to black, green to ground, and that would start up the power supply. So that's really cool. I'm really happy that they did include that. I'm pretty positive that's what that is. Neat. I bought the 450 watt version, and it did not include that. So I wonder why, only the 550 watt version has that, or maybe it's just something new they're putting in there. I'm not sure. That's really cool though. Yeah, so these are the power cables for a graphics card. This system, we're not doing a graphics card because they're not gamers, but they do have that. My client does have that option if they want to do that. They could put in a nice graphics card, have plenty of power from the Seasonic power supply to power it. It's a really good option. The only two power cables we need right now, and we might need for the build, that's it, is CPU power. The CPU requires a dedicated power cable, which is something that hasn't always been the case, but now with today's systems, kind of is. Looks like we got 4 different areas we can connect it. I'm really not sure if it makes a difference. It's labeled here, if you can read that, CPU and PCIe. I just go off the label. Manufacturer's gonna know best. And then we got the 26-pin power connector, motherboard power connector. We'll connect that. And there's our power supply and cables. Got plenty of cable. This, one disadvantage of Mini ITX is we definitely don't need this long of cable, but allow us to route it how we need to and everything. It'll be okay. Alright, so let's get this connected to the motherboard. I don't know if this has a power button. I don't think it does. A lot of these Mini ITX systems are so small, they sometimes, a lot of them don't include a power button to start, so I might have to jump it. Alright, connect that. Connect the CPU power. There we go. Okay. Let's go ahead and get that close here. Just move this like that. Got my cables I need just right here. That's power. And we got USB and video. Power supply on. All right, you can see the LEDs for the motherboard's on. Now we just need to start the computer. Turn my motherboard on, or my monitor. Let's see if this boots. Okay. Got my flashlight. Power button should be these two. There we go. CPU fan spinning, power supply's fan spinning. We have video. Hey, we got video. That's always good. And our BIOS is showing Intel Core i5 8400, 8 gigs of RAM. And we'll go into the setup here. Press F1. Wonder if it actually might not like my wireless keyboard mouse. Oh, Control-Delete works. So maybe it's just the function. Oh, wonder if I have to press FN. I just got this Microsoft keyboard trackpad set up for essentially just testing purposes. When I build a new system, oh yeah, that works, no problem. Mouse works, no problem. Cool. There it's reading the motherboard. It's difficult to see. There we go. So yeah, this is the BIOS of the computer. You know, it's showing me the CPU temperature, motherboard temperature, hanging around 28, 30 degrees Celsius, which is pretty standard, especially when we only have one fan going on the CPU heatsink. But yeah, our computer is working. So this is a good sign, you know. This is just a very basic test boot up. We have our CPU, RAM, motherboard, and power supply. That's all you. That is a computer right there. I'll get my solid state drive installed, and then it's just a matter of putting everything into the Thermaltake case. And cable management, getting the cooling fans installed, routing the cables, that's kind of the next step. So we'll power down everything. Everything seems to be running just fine. Shut off the power supply, and there we go. And should be good. Disconnect my cables. Actually, I'm going to stop it here for a moment. I'll be right back and get some pictures. All right. So yeah. Anyways, we tested the motherboard, RAM, processor, power supply. Everything seems to be functioning, at least to boot. Let's see. I think my screwdriver is small enough for this. Nope. All right, let me grab my other screwdriver here. So in most cases, a standard Phillips number 2 screwdriver is typically what you need. However, to remove this, we're probably going to have to use a 0 or maybe a 1. Yeah, it looks like a 1. Move the cover here. Maybe. There we go. Cover comes off. Oh, it looks like we got a little thermal pad there. Kind of keep your solid state drive running cool. These do, when they operate, they are producing heat, so it is important to keep it cool. Cut that open here. And there we go. There's a Samsung 970 EVO solid state. I don't know if drive's the most appropriate thing to call them. That's what the 2.5-inch form factor is known as. It's essentially the same type of memory, just different form factor, and it uses it's a lot quicker data connection than serial ATA would allow. So if you're looking for performance, this is the best it's going to get for a while is on the NVMe M2 form factor here. Can only go one way. You got small connectors there, large connectors there. I imagine power and data is what those are. And just basically plugs in like that. And then we're going to need a little screw. So let me go through my screws here. That came with the motherboard. That's probably what we need. This little guy. Let me cut that open here. Oh, it's in another bag. It's in its own little. There we go. Screw that down, it's in place. Put the cover on top. Oh, looks like this has some film on it. Make sure to peel that off. I know that's that peeling feeling. I always enjoy peeling off the plastic protective film off various electronics. Screw that down into place. Alright, there we go. Solid state drive is installed. Just throw this back together. I don't think we need to keep anything, but I'll double check before I toss it. Move this to the side, don't need that anymore. All right, there we go. That's essentially our computer, power supply, and we won't need that, so throw that down there. The next part is to put everything inside the case. I'm gonna want to install the case fans, I think, next. So let's get this over here. We'll set this back here out of the way. Bring the case over this way. It's a nice lightweight design, you know, kind of cube in shape. Two 80mm fans are gonna go here. Power supply is gonna go underneath. Motherboard will mount right here with two slots then for essentially a graphics card if they want to go that route. We got cooling here, window on top, cooling over here. What's interesting is these panels can actually be interchanged with each other due to its cube design, which I do enjoy of this case. The bottom actually even comes out too. Oops, the bottom completely is removable. Overall, I really enjoy this case and design. It'd be better if this was glass. I know tempered glass, but then again, that'd drive up cost and might be cost prohibitive for some of my clients. They're not going to want a super expensive case, even as nice as it might be. And something I would really appreciate, I always got to look out for my clients and what they kind of want to appreciate. Side panels just kind of pull off just like that. We'll set those to the side. Aha. I'll leave the plastic protector on for now. We don't need that off. Leave the base on for now as well. Oh, actually, this is quite a large cooling fan we have up there. I think I underestimated the size. 140mm. So we'll be going down a size, but that should be fine. This fan is more than likely going to be better quality fan than the Thermaltake fan. Thermaltake's a good brand though too. I'm not knocking their fans or anything, but there is a certain aesthetic to the Noctua brand, which I do enjoy. They're kind of unique with their design. Some people really don't like the colors. I don't mind them. I do prefer their gray fans over kind of their standard color, but I think they're still nice looking hardware. Here's all the front panel connectors. We'll just kind of shove those to the bottom for now. What I need to look at is getting the front panel removed so I can remove the cooling fan up front to replace that with the Noctua fan, which I think it just pops out. Yeah, it looks like it just pops out. Oh yeah, gotta take off. Let's use my screwdriver for that. Oops, let's swap this out. The number 2, there we go. Really don't know why my number 1 bit wasn't fitting. Must be just the shape. Pull this drive out. We actually don't need these, but I'll put them back in anyways. Now let's go ahead and just take this one out as well. So these are for basically your hard drives to go into the case. You really won't be needing them, but I'll put them back because in the future they might want to upgrade their system. There we go. Pull that one out as well. Alright, there we go. Kind of have it down to bare bones, and I'll take the front off next. There's the front. The front comes off really easily to clean. We do have some a foam filter there, which I believe you can't remove. Yeah, it's really not removable. You could remove it, but it's just easiest just to clean this directly. You could probably wash this too, as long as you let it dry really good. But if you take this out, blow it out, that'll kind of get rid of all the dust. Could be a little better design, but it's not bad at all. Front comes off really easily, so that's good. Yeah, so this is a bigger cooling fan than I thought was in this case, but that's fine. Let's get the Noctua in there. We'll see how it looks. Maybe I'll end up using this fan. I'm not sure. I believe I swapped it out before, but maybe I didn't. Maybe I was mistaken. Essentially the bigger the fan, the better performance it's going to have, and the slower rate it needs to spin at too, for RPM. So really, due to the size of the fan, it should actually be a pretty quiet fan. Performance-wise, I don't know how much better it perform over the Noctua fan I'm going to install. They should be pretty comparable though, even though the size difference is pretty substantial. Alright, bottom screw is next. There we go. Oh, that was actually a nice kind of braided cable. So yeah, not a bad fan at all. 12 volt, 0.42 amps. Let's in that there. Let's take the Noctua out, the 140 millimeter fan, just see the size comparison here. So yeah, it's a little smaller. Let me see that. This must be a 200 millimeter fan, I think. Probably look. I didn't think it was that big. Yeah, this must be a 200 millimeter fan. I thought the fan they included was a step smaller than that, but so yeah, there's the comparison. So, you know, it's pretty big. You know, it's a little bit stepped down, but overall, again, I think this is probably going to be the better performing fan. Cable is a little bit shorter. That should be fine. Might have to use Molex to 3-pin adapter potentially, which don't know if they include. Oh, okay. They include some. Oh, yeah. So they have some Y adapter cables. So I think we can get something to work here. But yeah, Noctua branded fan, really good quality. Again, design isn't so, the tan and brown isn't appealing to everyone, but I think they make really attractive looking equipment. You know, it's quality anyways. We're going to want our cooling fan mounted, yeah, pretty much like that. We don't really need air blowing to the power supply area. Power supply is well contained on its own with its 120 millimeter intake fan, and then it just exhausts out the rear. And then that kind of just picks up from underneath. There's space underneath this case where it pulls in its intake. So yeah, that's good. Looks like we'll just mount it the other way, coming with the fan screws this way. So let me get the fan screws out. Set that to the side. My knife. Probably end up cutting myself tonight before this video is over. So fan screws are, you know, essentially almost all fans include these. They're self-threading screws. They self-tap themselves into the plastic. Essentially, I think that's about where let me look on the motherboard and see where our fan header is before I get the fan mounted. Might have to rotate it around. So again, I'm looking for fan headers. We got one header there. We do have an all-in-one pump header. I'm not sure what the difference between a regular fan header and the pump header would be. Essentially, all-in-one pump header means it's power for if you had an all-in-one closed loop water cooling system, that's where your pump would connect. I think we can just run a standard fan off that. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. I might run the 80 millimeter fans off that one. They should run fine. I wonder if there's voltage control on that or if it's just straight voltage. That could be the difference. We'll find out though. I don't think it'll be that big of a difference. So probably, maybe I'll just run the 140 millimeter off that one. So it's on the right side, and when the motherboard's in the case, it's going to be like this. So it's going to be on the right side. Originally, I was kind of thinking this way, but maybe it'd be better to have the fan kind of this way because our cable length. Let me set the motherboard down here. Yeah, so our cable is pretty short on this fan. So originally I was thinking to be connected like this, but that would reach the one header. We want to go the other way here, I think. All right, so let's go. Yeah, there we go. That would be good. And again, the direction is essentially the braces here that support the fan motor. All fans are built the same way. That's always going to be the exhaust of the fan, the direction the fan blades move the air. So that's kind of standard. But there is arrows printed on the outside of them in case you're doubting yourself, which I do frequently. Alright, that's tight. Alright. One more screw in. There we go. All right, so we got our front replacement fan put in. We'll set the thermal tape one to the side. We won't be using that one. We got our front panel connectors, USB 3.0, power button, reset button, and then headphone and microphone connector. Oh yeah, the LEDs too. Okay, so let's go ahead and put the two rear fans in. These are Noctua branded, of course. So right there. Move this to the side. Pull these out. There we go. It's kind of hard to believe, you know, these actually used to be the standard computer cooling fan size a while ago. When I got into computers, this was kind of the standard before they moved to 120 millimeter, kind of really being the standard size. This was basically the standard size, which today seems tiny. You know, you go from something that's 200 millimeter in size to 80 millimeter. But there are going to be two of them, so, you know, they're going to move a decent amount of air and be plenty for this setup. We got 140 coming in, 92, 80 millimeter. Essentially a direct tunnel of air kind of moving past the processor, RAM, motherboard, everything. It's going to be a really cool system. Haha, no pun intended. Or maybe there was. Anyways. Open our package here. Let's use this to dump the screws in. Gotta do the same thing here. They do include these little rubber mounts too. I'm not a huge fan of them. Guess I'm a little more old school and prefer the good old fan screws, self-tapping fan screws. Put those in there. All right. Now Noctua, they do include another benefit of buying these fans. They include a low noise adapter, which cuts the voltage down from 12 to 7 volts, I believe. Has a resistor in there. And then they include these Y Oh, extension cable, perfect. So they do include extension cable as well. And then they include these Y splitters. So this will actually work really well. This will allow me, I won't need to use a Molex to 3-4 pin fan adapter. Oh, my wife is home. I'll stop recording. All right, well, this is how far we've gotten today. Basically got the 140 millimeter front fan installed, got the two 80 millimeter fans still to go, got to put the rest of the computer into the case, and then we should be good. However, my wife just got back, so that's going to end it for today, and I'll be back tomorrow. All right, welcome back. So, we'll kind of start off where we left off the other day. I'll move the camera here so we can see where that's at. All right. So we got our 140 millimeter case fan installed on the chassis. We got our computer sitting over there. We tested that. That's all operational. Now we're just going to install these 80 millimeter fans on the rear of the chassis. Rotate this around. And those will end up just going like this. Get our fan screws here. That lined up. Next fan. Alright, then we got this Y cable we'll use. Allow us to connect both fans to a single fan header. And we'll figure out how to run that later. Let's tuck that down below for now. So there we go, we got our intake fan, 140 millimeter up front, then our two 80 millimeter exhaust fans on the rear. Let's get this motherboard installed. One interesting feature of this motherboard is the I/O shield is integrated, already attached to the motherboard. It's kind of nice. I haven't seen that before. So we'll slide this in. Typically it connects the I/O panel, or I/O shield will just kind of snap into place there. So it's just one less step we gotta do. And I wonder if we're gonna have a clearance issue. Maybe. Might have to rotate my fans around. Maybe should have installed my fans after the fact. I may have to remove those. But that is tight. That's okay. Just slide this back out, set it down. Alright. There we go. And let me see what I do with those case screws. Right here. Dump those out. There, and it should be these screws, I believe. Make sure that's lined up. Snug, but not too snug. There's last, nope. There's the last one. There we go, motherboard is installed. Let's put the fan back in, since we had to take those out previously. Start over here. Yeah. Usually that's not an issue, but with the integrated I/O shield of this motherboard, wasn't any way I was going to be able to slide that below these fans. Alright, that should be kind of fun to cable manage. Alright, got all the cooling fans installed. Probably won't put the front on quite yet, just because it's going to be easier if I don't, to allow me to work with the cables a little bit better. The next step is probably get the power supply installed, get these cables out from underneath, kind of out of the way here, so I can get that power supply installed. installed. And that should just go right in. Want the fan facing down. I'm going to peel off this little protective sticker there. Always remember to get those off. There we go. And see, actually I think I have to take the base out to get the power supply in. Put that on the side. And that easily just comes out with these 2 screws. Just like that. This will go in just like this. Let me find the screws for the power supply. Somewhere around here. All right, 5 years later, found the screws for the power supply. These are screws that were included with the power supply. Typically I use what comes with it, so I know I have the correct thread. And actually I don't think, yeah, it doesn't look like, typically your case screws should have additional screws for the power supply, but they don't include these, which is fine. One way you know you have a quality power supply is just by the sheer weight of it. A lot of really inexpensive power supplies, they use cheaper components. They have less substance, you know, they weigh a lot less. It's kind of remarkable how much less a cheap power supply weighs in comparison to a good quality one. You can really feel how sturdy a good quality power supply is just by weight. Remove this sticker or protective. Alright, so we got our power supply in. See that there. Motherboard and CPU power cables are connected. Let's kind of pull those through the front for now. I could probably leave the base off, but let's just put it back on for now. If I need to take it off, it comes off really easily. That's what I really like about this case design, is all the panels can come off. Some cases will have maybe a few screws holding it on, or some cases will simply have the side panel or the top riveted and then you can't get it off. It's kind of a real pain to work with. This one, on the other hand, just comes completely apart. Nice little frame, really sturdy. Really enjoy building in this case. Okay, so let's get pull these out through the front just to get them out of the way. Let's see what we're working with here. We won't need screws anymore, so we'll get those out of the way. Clearing it off here. Alright. Kind of give you a better view of what's going on. There we go. Get a nice top-down view. So yeah, we have to get our case fans connected to the motherboard, fan headers, got to get the I/O front input and power button connected to the motherboard, the headers on there. get the power supply, power cables connected, and then it's just a matter of managing those cables. The nice thing about this case, it has a lot of just empty area right down here that we can kind of hide cables, so that's going to be really nice for cable management. This will be a little interesting to manage just because we got two different lengths here. Again, my favorite thing for cable management is zip ties. I buy these at Walmart, couple dollars a piece, 100 zip ties, perfect length for interior management. And that's really important to have a good side cutter. This is a Irwin flat flush side cutter, so it can basically take off the sharp bits of a zip tie. A lot of times when people cut zip ties, they don't have the proper tool. You leave a little section of the zip tie that gets really jagged and can be a real pain, literally, if that's left inside whatever you're working on, because I've cut myself on those all the time, unfortunately. But if you have a good side cutter like this, you don't have to worry about that, so that's kind of nice. Really good quality too. All right. Sorry, I keep moving this around here. There we go. All right. So let's route our CPU. Just pull this through here. It's kind of hard to see. Flashlight, but here's a CPU power connector right there. We got an 8-pin power connector. We got our 8-pin power supply connector. That'll simply connect right in there. It can only go in one way. There's a little knot locking tab on the power connector. And there. What I'll probably end up doing is zip tying. Actually, I'll probably zip tie all the motherboard power cable and the CPU power cable and kind of tuck it in right there. Pull this one through the same direction. Pull it tight, feed it back through. And then it's kind of hard to see, but here's the 26-pin power connector for the motherboard. Just connect that. Again, can only be connected one way. Requires a little bit of force to get it connected, but it will click and lock into place. And what I'll do here is I will zip tie. Actually, I'm gonna have to get my bigger zip ties for these. Oh, it looks like the Seasonic power supply did include a handful of zip ties, so we could actually use these. These should be long enough, possibly. We'll find out here. And it looks like I can zip tie those neatly together. Let's try that out. Oh yeah, just long enough. And we'll do 2 of them. There we go. And cut the tails off. There we go. Flush, no jagged edge, so that's good. And there we go, we got our main power cables that tied kind of tucked away neatly. Yeah, I think we should be okay. One thing I wish this case did have was kind of some cases have little mounting loops where you can run a zip tie through it. That's really nice. This case doesn't really have any of that. You don't really need it. It's just kind of something nice. I did forget about these brackets here. These are for additional drives. I should make sure these can go back into place. Yeah, it should just go like that. That actually could be an issue with where I talk to my cable, now that I think about it. There might be be enough gap. Maybe not though. Might have to just leave one of these out. It's not a big deal because if they want to, we don't really need both of them. I think they're the same. Oh, no, they are. Nope. Yeah, those brackets are exactly the same. So let's just try putting the one back. I'd like to put one back in there just in case they do want to add additional drives. There we go. Yeah, that should be fine. I think I'll end up leaving the one out since our power cable's kind of tucked over there. I'm sure I could probably get it back in, but I don't want to put too much stress on the cable. I don't want to possibly damage it either. So if there's one drive bracket in here, that's going to be plenty if they want to add an additional drive down the road for some reason. They shouldn't need to, unless they want more storage, really is the only reason they might want to do that, or if they want to have internal backup, which isn't a bad idea either. Okay, we'll get the fans connected next. We'll worry about the front panel last. Fans probably going to be a little bit easier to route. I'm going to end up just connecting to the all-in-one header here. It should be fine for fan power. It's the same type of connector, just labeled all-in-one. I think that's the only difference, is it's labeled all-in-one. And you can see that that cable just kind of tucks in nicely right here. Perfect length. Really happy with that. Now we got this cable here, the two 80mm fan cables. This could be a little bit interesting to connect since they're, slightly different lengths. Our fan header is right here though. So let's see what happens with our length when we connect it to the header. Alright, we're connected, and now I just have these two cables here. Just trying to neatly figure out how we can conceal these. I don't really want to go over this direction because this is if they wanted to add a video card to their computer later down the road. I don't want it in the way necessarily. I mean, it could easily be moved if it were, but I'd prefer to leave that open as much as possible in case they do want to do that. That way we don't have to disrupt the fan cables and how they're managed. We could tuck them next to it. Yeah, maybe. Maybe tuck them up here. Next to the fan. Just thinking how I could run my zip ties and kind of get the cables out of the way. That actually might not be too bad like that. I think there is enough clearance. Barely. Ooh, they do want to add a video card. That could be an issue then if I do that. Let's see. Yeah, I just disconnected it by accident. Tried disconnecting that Y cable. Now this is the joy of these small cases, is just trying to figure out how to route these cables and make it look neat. It's not always the easiest task. It's possible, just might not be the easiest. If I do something like that, it does look really good that way. Go straight down, actually. We do have a couple holes here. Might be able to run some zip ties through there. If we pin the cable there, that should be fine, because if we did add a video card, there is typically a little gap underneath video cards. So that could work. If I zip tie the cable back, Yeah, let's try doing that. Nice thing is, if I don't like it, I can always just simply clip the zip tie and start over. Alright, so what I'm doing is I'm folding the fan cables and getting them kind of even with each other, then I'll zip tie them tight so then they kind of remain even. I'll show you why here. Alright, that's pretty good. Clip that little tail. It's flush. Reason why I wanted to zip tie them kind of even with each other is when it connects to the Y cable, then there's not going to be a little bit of cable sticking out. Just like that. What I could do is I could even use the extension and drop this straight down maybe. Ooh, maybe I'll end up doing that instead. So this, because the Y cable is a little bulky, but we could always extend it too. Yeah, that's going to be kind of in the way when we connect. Yeah, that's not going to work. Let me find that extension cable. See how much length we get with that. Oh yeah, there we go. So we got that nice extension cable that's included. It looks like it's about 1 foot long. So that could help a lot. So if we drop this just straight down even, actually I wonder if we come up through here, route the cable this way, that could work. So just route it straight back like that underneath, and then we can tuck this all. Let me clip that zip tie. So I think that's just in the way now. Okay. I think if they wanted to add a video card, it'd still be possible. We could actually zip tie these cables to the underside here. So let's try doing that, maybe. Wonder how I did my other. I have built in this case before, but that was a little over a year ago. Similar setup though, 2 80mm fans in the back. I don't know how I routed those though. Maybe I went to the other side. Maybe it actually would be better to go to the other side. Actually, we do have a lot more room to work with. I wonder, might have to flip these case fans around, because I really don't like how it butts over to the expansion slots here. It kind of made sense since the fan header's over here, but we do have an extension cable we could use, and it should reach if we rotate these around. Or actually, if I just pull these through. Let's try doing that. I do like puzzles when it comes to computers, and cable management can definitely be a challenging puzzle sometimes. There's just a barely big enough gap. I'm going to loosen up these fans here. I don't want to pull on the cables too hard. This will be the 3rd time I'll be installing these fans. That's how it goes sometimes. Alright, let's work our magic now. Dragging a bunch of zip ties with the cables. That's no good. Okay. So, if we do this, like, same thinking if we go this way instead, that might work better in our favor. What I could always do too is rotate these fans around. The cable here, if you rotate it whatever direction, that you can kind of conceal a cable that way too. I do prefer them, kind of picky, and prefer them to be label facing up for the exterior, even though you really can't see it. I can see it, so I can be picky about that sometimes. But if the cables will look neater one way, it's usually that's what I'll go with, is whatever is the neatest way the cables will appear. So what I'm going to do here is connect this to the fan header. We got our extension cable. Connect that to the fan header, and then we're going to drop that down here. And that's kind of out of the way. Just going straight underneath. Tuck it underneath here. Pulling it through on the other side. Oh yeah, I think that's just long enough too. I could always go the other. Yeah, we'll try this route really quick. Let's see if this is like this. Does that reach or stretch? Oh yeah, that's actually perfect. Yeah, I think that'll work well. We'll keep it that way. I like how that looks. Alright, now for the third time. It's not ideal but it's fine. Everything's fine. The second one put in. Connected. The right way. Alright, there we go. Barely enough room for those cables to slip underneath the case fan and the I/O shield here. I do like the I/O shield is integrated though. Like I said, that's the first time I've ever seen that. It's kind of nice. I really hate the I/O shields with the grounding tabs on them. They have a tendency to stick into the ports when you're installing the motherboard. I've actually had accidentally done that with a USB port or an Ethernet port before, where the grounding tab, instead of going on top of the port to the exterior, ends up inside the port. I don't realize it until I'm done, and then have to take the motherboard out. That's always a pain. Alright. Got fans installed for the 20th time. Got those cables, might zip tie those together just to make them neater. Just run a single zip tie maybe. But not bad. Actually probably won't need to. Okay, so we got the fans connected to the motherboard for power. Motherboard's connected to the power supply for power. Then we got our front panel we need to connect. We got our breakout cable here for the power switch, reset switch, power LED, HD, LED, or really solid state drive LED. USB 3.0, get that connected. I really don't like the 3.0 type header. It's very, I don't know how to say it. It's a pain. Ooh, I might be able to just zip tie it like that. That could look nice. Pull this way and pull this one this way. Yeah, that actually looks pretty nice if we just do that. The issue I find with USB 3 cable and header is you can't really, it doesn't connect the connection isn't very sturdy. You gotta make sure that you don't put too much stress on the cable, otherwise it'll disconnect. It's very wobbly in there. I don't understand why it's such a poorly designed thing. You know, it hasn't been around that long. USB 2.0 headers, they're a lot more sturdy than this 3.0 header is. It's just not a very good, I don't think it's a very good system or very good designed connector. We'll use some shorter zip ties here, don't need those long ones. But enough ranting. I can't do anything about it. Just kind of zip tie that and make sure there's not too much pressure. And it's kind of out of the way too. It's just following this channel that's just going straight up and down right here. You can kind of see how it just kind of loops up nicely and goes straight down. Shouldn't move with the zip tie then. Alright. Pull this down through here like this. Actually, I'll probably end up zip tying these since there's a lot of extra. Zip tying them to this brace right here. Maybe just come out. Let's see how that looks. This is the audio header for your microphone and headphone jack on the front or the side of the computer in this case. That always goes towards the back of the motherboard. And there's only one way to connect that. You got that little blank piece right there. So it can only be connected one way into the header. The header's really easy to locate because it's missing that single pin. Now that's connected. Actually, I'll probably might want to pull them straight back and then maybe, again, I don't want to interfere with the expansion slot here. I got some loud trucks coming through. Alright, because I'll probably end up just zip tying those cables together, just going straight back like that. And then I could tuck them underneath. That'll look nice. Or actually, it's just that one because the front panel header is over here. Oh yeah, there's that cable that will make it easier. And we got a green truck coming around for another go. Spinning around, running into the curb. And just spinning his tires. That's lovely. Literally did a loop around the boulevard. Alright. So this is really cool. Not all motherboards include these. It's really nice when they do. It's essentially, I don't know what the correct term is. I'd call it a breakout cable though. Instead of, it's on the motherboard, there's a little header which has all the connectors you need for your power LED, your drive LED, reset switch, and power switch. However, it can be kind of difficult to see how those should connect, and sometimes you have to reference the user manual for the motherboard to figure out how it connects. This takes the guesswork out of that. It gives you all the labels you need to know, and then this connects to the motherboard, so you just basically line them up with the labels on your case connector. So we got HD LED. I'm assuming the labels should go with each other. Power switch, so power switch connects to power switch. The switches don't matter which way you connect those. The LEDs will. Alright, and then we got the red wire should be the positive. So we got a little plus sign there and a negative. It's kind of funny how that's one thing that hasn't changed over the years. I've been doing this, for 15 years now, and that's one thing that's always remained the same is these header connectors. Alright, so we got those connected. And that makes it really easy now to connect to the motherboard. So we'll rotate this around. Just see in there, and It's really hard to see, but basically we got a few headers here. I believe that's for, yeah, it's for a speaker, which I don't have, unfortunately. And then this is the front panel header that we'll connect to. So let's pull this through here. And again, there's a missing pin, so you can only connect it one way. There we go, now it's connected. I just gotta zip tie these cables, and really, we're ready to boot it again to see if everything's working. So let me zip tie these cables nice and snug underneath this bar right here. Figure out the best way to do that. Probably bring this one back over this way. I'll put a zip tie there, I might cut it later. Zip ties are disposable, so if you need one to hold cables, you know, definitely do it if it's going to help with management. Alright, there we go. Got a couple of loops, and just kind of loop the cables together, kind of hide them out of the way there. Yeah, I might want to see, like, I might want to snip that zip tie now because it's not exactly how I want it. That's okay. Alright, and we can, this is a flat cable, so flat cables can be kind of interesting to fold together. I like to get them flat again. Just make them really neat like that. If you gotta turn them, then they get a little interesting. I may end up just looping these separately, but we'll figure that out. Alright, so if we go like that, that should work. Add a zip tie here just to get this to stay together so it won't come apart on me. Again, flush cutter, so no jagged edge. So yeah, that should look good right there. This one we might just have to come back. So yeah, then we can run zip ties through these holes right through this brace. Try a couple. Actually, let's just go ahead. Don't know, yeah, it won't reach that one, but that's okay. Just rotate that around, underside, like so. And I think I'm not getting it through. Yeah, it's pretty tight right there, so let's see if I can pull that back a bit. There we go. I'll add another zip tie, because why not? Tuck that and snip. All right. width down there still. She might add a second one. What direction does that go? Should go this way. Cut a cable, so I'm gonna flip it on the side and get a better view here. There you go. That's nice and snug. Looks like we can add a zip tie through there. All right, so that's looking pretty good. Yeah, not too bad. Everything's looking pretty neat. I got the USB 3.0 cable here. Not sure if I want to loop that anyway. It's kind of a stiff cable, and I don't like putting too much pressure on it. It's connected fine there to the motherboard. That's good. But it looks fine. You're not going to really see it anyways. Everything's connected. Should be good. Let's go ahead. I'm going to take some... So... we got everything installed. This is basically our computer system here, minus the front and the sides and the top. Let's fire it up and see what happens. Power there. Fans are spinning, that's a good sign. Huh. All right. We are up and running officially. There's our computer. Cool. It's going to take a few more pictures of it running. And then we can assemble the rest of it, which is just snapping it all together. But yeah, that's essentially it. We have to load Windows 10 still, which is really easy to install. I don't have my flash drive with me. When you're building a computer from scratch, of course you're going to need a license, so I have Windows 10 Home OEM license since this is a custom build. That's always important to have that certificate of authenticity. Other than that, should be good to go. I'll get the case put back together here and show you the final results, and yeah, hang tight. Alright, so there we have it. Basically, I just had to finish up on a couple things. I got the case all put together. The front of the case fell off when I was maneuvering it around, so then I realized there's two spots for two screws right there. Put those in, now the front's sturdy. Not really an issue if it's your own personal computer, because you know, if you want to remove and clean out the filter on the front, that's great. Really easy to do. Because it's a client computer, they're probably never going to take it apart. I don't want the front just falling off. on them. So, that's one thing I want to do, get that secured. Also, the front case fan was running at full speed, 12 volts through the all-in-one header on the motherboard. What I did was I found in the BIOS there's a setting to set that to PWM, pulse width modulated. So then the fan speed is automatically controlled by the motherboard based on temperature. So instead of running at like 1400 RPMs, it's now at 500 RPMs. Can't hear it at all. It's fantastic. Everything appears to be running. I got my flash drive connected with Windows 10 Home. Just have to install that now. And should be good to go. Just need to update it, get a few basic programs installed for them, activate it. Remember, it's always important to purchase a license, authentic Windows 10 license for the system. So I'll be sticking that certificate of authenticity sticker on the back of the computer so it's legitimate. Definitely one place you don't want to cut corners when building a client computer. I always purchase these from Newegg and some other reputable sources. There are other sources out there, you might be able to find it cheaper, but I know we won't have any issues with activation this way. Other than that, should be good to go. Got a nice compact system here. And yeah, it's just once I get up and running, I'll put it back in its box, deliver the computer, transfer their files over, and should be good to go. If you have any questions, just feel free to leave some comments down below. Let me know. If you think I can improve these videos anyway, let me know. If you dislike it, go ahead, dislike it. That's fine. So yeah, that's everything. Talk to you guys later.